powerful and useful resources for the OI community. We're talking about lists of doctors and specialists who know about OI. We're talking about getting linked up to relevant treatments and clinical trials. We're talking about having our own OI support team and free genetic testing. What? That's right. And it's all being put together by a company called Probably Genetic. Hey, what's going on? I'm Tony Jacobsen, the founder of OILife, author of Disable Your Disability, and fellow O.I.er. That's right, I have type 1. And I'm so excited because in this video, I'm bringing right into the spotlight Abby DeCruz. She is the head of strategy and operations at Probably Genetic. So let's just go ahead and get right into this interview. I've got Abby DeCruz here. She is from Probably Genetic, and I'm so excited to have you here, Abby, with us today on the OILife channel. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. Super excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be able to have you here to talk about this amazing company that you are a part of. Please, let's just dive right into it. Tell us what Probably Genetic is all about.
So I guess, a good place to start is the start, kind of the reason that we exist, our why, and I think it'll be familiar to a lot of your listeners. Essentially, the reason that we exist is this whole concept of a diagnostic odyssey. Again, will be very familiar to anyone who has experience or has a loved one who's experienced a rare disease where, because of how difficult it is to access a specialist or even just know what's going on, much less get a test. Currently, the diagnostic odyssey means that, on average, it's about 8 years, I think, at the moment, for a rare disease patient to get a diagnosis. And then on that path as well, it's an average of 2 to 3 misdiagnoses, which of course compound the difficulty of the whole experience. And so really, that is the problem that we as a company set out to solve. And essentially, the reason that we are speaking today is that our hypothesis is that essentially, while folks are struggling to figure out what's going on and reach a specialist or get a test, what they're actually doing while that whole process is happening in the healthcare system is that they're mirroring that journey online and through social channels, which, of course, all of your listeners will be familiar with because they're listening to us right now. So our whole goal is to reach people much earlier in their diagnostic journey by trying to find them on those online and social platforms and get them access to the resources that they need much earlier than they otherwise would. So our whole goal is to shorten that diagnostic odyssey.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's how you found me. And, it's great that you're connecting directly to the patients, to people that are going through it right now. I think that is a huge difference between you and other companies that are kind of going through this process. And I just love hearing that about you. And that's what excited me, about talking with you. So I'm really, this is the OILife channel. It's all about osteogenesis imperfecta. And you guys have actually, started to look at how you can help O.I.ers. So, that's great because, we do have resources. I'm not gonna say we don't, but, the more the merrier. The faster we can get things done, the better. And I'm really excited about what you have going on for OI. But tell me, how did you even come about choosing OI as a, rare disease that you would be able to service through Probably Genetic?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's something like 10,000 rare diseases, so it makes a lot of sense. How did we happen upon OI? And essentially the background here is that, as a company that exists in the rare disease space, we're constantly looking for conditions and patient communities that are a good fit for our approach specifically. So usually what that means is, there's a really high unmet need or just a lot of barriers that face patients who are trying to access care or support. And then also the other piece is that the presentation of those conditions that are a good fit for our approach has to be describable. So what that means then, or what that allows, is that patients to sort of form communities, share their experiences in those online and social channels. So I can see that you're nodding. It's pretty obvious then how that's a fit for OI. And I think, definitely on both of those points, it's a huge amount of unmet need for the OI community. And there is a really strong community online and in those social channels. But specifically for OI, actually, we had a mum whose son was diagnosed with OI. She reached out to us. I think she heard about us on a podcast. And she just reached out to say, hey, this is a really engaged community, but we need support. And this is kind of the situation. This is the experience. And so, we actually found out about you through a patient or, a mum herself. And we were just super excited about the opportunity to make an impact for you all.
Yeah, it's great because the way you say that, it is true because the O.I.ers, we do have a great community, and when we get together with each other, it's awesome, and it's great to be able to provide information and I guess more data, of what's going on within our community and for us to different companies and different research avenues, so that we can just make sure we're getting what we need, and for just quality of life overall. So I really love this. I love that you've come to us. I love that you're opening up this channel. You've started this free program. And I want to know about this. I want you to talk about it. Now, I've gone through what's called the online symptom checker, right? Now,
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about, like, that's the first step that people go through. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, given that our whole approach is based on, finding patients online, the next step really is making sure that they have a super easy, patient-friendly way to report their experience. And that's basically what the online symptom checker is, which you've experienced, and basically serves as like the intake for our programs. And so what that is for OI is that it's a really short online symptom checker. So it's like an online form. There's a bunch of different questions in there. It's really patient friendly, takes less than 3 minutes on average to complete. So it won't take up a bunch of time, and you can access it on any internet connected device. And what that means is that it'll allow patients or their loved ones to communicate or, describe their experience in their own words, things like symptoms or prior diagnoses, physicians that they might be seeing. And at the end of it, they can get access, so specifically for the OI program, that's really exciting, they can get immediate access to what we call a patient support resource. So Tony, I think that you will have seen this given that you've completed the symptom checker, but this is essentially a document where it has a whole bunch of different resources that might be helpful regardless of where that patient is on their journey. So there's, specifically for the OI resource, we have a physician visit checkbox, which just helps folks convey their experience at their next doctor visit. It can be really overwhelming to have to remember and think through everything that's happened since your last visit. And so there's kind of a checklist to help folks there. We also have an overview of the types of different specialists and therapies as well that might be relevant for OI patients that they can kind of proactively follow up on. And then importantly, also note advocacy groups and patient communities that you can join. And the probably most detailed piece that's super exciting for OI patients is that we also provide some really detailed clinical trial information for anyone that might be eligible and then interested enrolling in those as well, as obviously a really important opportunity for patients. We make sure that they have access to those too. So there's a lot in there, but essentially you fill out a pretty simple form and then you get access to a whole variety of resources that will hopefully support you on your journey.
Yeah, I was going to say the form is very easy, but what you do with all that information is where the complicated stuff gets taken care of, so we don't have to think about it. And that's really cool. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit. So it really is a method to be able to connect with maybe some possible clinical trials and other research studies, just basically through filling out that symptom checker. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. And, I focused in the previous question on the resource, and that's all included. So that's, you get that no matter what. As soon as you let us know that you have an OI diagnosis, that'll pop up for you. But a really exciting piece as well is that part of the form is that you can consent or sort of request to be contacted by a dedicated patient support team. And so what happens if you tick that box is that you'll actually get live outreach from an OI specific patient team who can share, additional specific information about trials that might be relevant to you, that really is tailored to the specifics of your situation. And that's a really exciting piece for us. I think it's always better when you can actually connect people with sort of dedicated support team that can listen to what they've actually been going through and provide relevant information. So that's an option in the form too.
Yeah, that's been been a big piece for just people in the OI community, because I know there are a lot of clinical trials that happen and different research studies, but maybe, it's difficult to find out if we're eligible. It's difficult to know which ones we would align with. So to have this process just kind of laid out is really beneficial for anybody who just jumps in and just starts to provide the information. So I really enjoy that. With the actual symptom checker, can you kind of go through what type of questions are in there for people that are, filling out who are O.I.ers?
Yeah, of course. So we've designed it again. The two goals really are that it's really easy to use. So all of the terms in there are very patient friendly, so that you really get a sense of describing your experience in your own words. So that's the first piece. And then the second bit is that we also want it to be comprehensive, so that you can report, exactly what you're experiencing in a holistic way, and we can really amplify that. This is the patient experience of OI. And so what you can expect when you go in there is just a characterization of a few different categories of your experience. So the first, and they're all sort of relevant to your clinical history. So let's say the first piece might be any diagnoses. We know that folks get a variety of diagnoses on the way to the right one. So it's really important to get a sense of what those are. So prior diagnoses, of course, symptoms are really important. So things specifically relevant to OI might be the frequency of, any fractures or bone issues that you've had. So there's a short section on symptoms. And then another piece that's important is the physician element. Because of what I mentioned, that diagnostic odyssey, we're often seeing folks having to contact multiple different physicians to get to the right one. And so it's really important that we have a sense of what they're going through so that we can highlight that as an issue. And again, highlight that that's the patient experience. So really, those are the three main sections. You work through them pretty briefly, but it's largely all about your prior history. There might be some additional questions as well on testing, if that's relevant. So if you say that you've had, a specific diagnosis of a mutation, you can also let us know what type of genetic test you had, things like that. So everything that just relates to your clinical history.
Yeah, I love it. I went through it, and I love that it's generally easy, but it's very specific. So again, that information that we're giving can then be channeled to the right places, and we can be given the right resources. I love that you kind of stacked up the diagnoses, because O.I.ers tend to maybe have a couple different things going on. And yes, having that doctor kind of spot where you put in your physicians. I mean, that's just, the form is so easy. And I just love all the questions that you put in there. Can you talk a little bit about, and I don't know if it's necessarily available at this point, but I know you're putting together like a list of some doctors, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think, it's important to note that we're sort of in the early stages of our OI sort of engagement. We're really hopeful from everything that we've heard and everything we're seeing so far that this is a really, highly engaged community. And so when we're always kind of, our position is that we're continually trying to just unlock as many resources as we can for the patient communities that we support. And so, some of the pieces that we're thinking about would be things like, the obvious one would be free genetic testing, which we are sometimes able to make available for some of our programs. And then especially given the experience of the OI community and how challenging and important it is to find a supportive physician, you're right. Putting together a physician resource is something that we're hearing a lot that would be useful. So being able to basically provide newly diagnosed patients who are trying to figure out what the heck is going on with a list of physicians or specialists that OI patients are actually seeing. And so they know that they're, experienced and compassionate when treating OI patients. And we're hearing that that would be a great resource too. So those are the kinds of things that we're hoping to unlock given the engagement that we're seeing.
Yeah, Abby, I'm going to just give you the secret right now. The secret is make that happen, and like you're going to get every O.I.er coming to you, because like that's a big deal. That's a big deal. That and you mentioned the genetic testing. I mean, it's an expensive test. It's not always covered by insurance, which is kind of insane in my mind. But I think that as a cash paying patient, sometimes I've gone to see what the cost for that would be, and it's kind of outrageous. So that's another resource that would be great to have unlocked through probably genetic, to be able to provide that to people. So again, I commend you on building this resource library for people and like unlocking this for O.I.ers. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about data privacy. A lot of people get hung up on HIPAA and whatnot. So just touch on a little bit about how safe this online form is for folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say, that's a completely valid concern. And I think increasingly as folks, as data enters into sort of every aspect of our life, people are becoming aware that this is a question that should be asked. And I think we've been really proactive about making it very clear and transparent that we take our responsibility really seriously. Folks are trusting us with their experience. They're giving us that kind of data on exactly what they're experiencing. And so there's a few really important points to make. The first is that we are the sole data custodians for all of the programs that we operate. So what that means is anything that you submit to us sits within our data infrastructure. We don't farm it out. There's no third parties get access to it. It's just all in the Probably Genetic system. And the reason that's important is that then we have our, confidence, our very high confidence that we are, abiding by the most stringent HIPAA regulations, the most stringent sort of best-in-class data privacy and storage practices. And so given that we are confident on our internal standards, that's why it's really important to us to make sure that that data stays within our systems. So that's probably the first thing to note. And then the second thing, of course, is that you mentioned this, there is a lot of utility and benefit to be had in sharing sort of insights with pharma or with biotech so that they understand what the patient experience is. That's a really important objective for us, but it's really important to note that anything that we do share with third parties is de-identified or aggregated to protect the patient's privacy. So we are always deferring to what does the patient want, and what have they told us that they want. So for this program specifically, of course, because we have an option for folks to opt in for contact by a dedicated support team, we are able to share contact information that they give us with that support team so they can get in touch, but we will only ever do that if the patient explicitly consents, so explicitly asks us to. And so that's basically what our standard practice is and also what our approach is in terms of putting patients first.
That's great. So it's all about engagement, right? I mean, we got to get, you're watching this video right now, you're listening, like, look, it's time to get engaged with probably genetic. You want to get in there. You want to do the symptom checker, and you want to be in the system, because this is how we're going to start really unlocking more and more resources for the OI community. So once someone does fill out the online symptom checker, and say they do check that they do want to be contacted, they'll probably be contacted. But say they don't do that, how does somebody follow up? How do we, stay in the know of what's going on once our information is with you and once this process is going? How do we stay in the know of everything that's going on at Probably Genetic?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me that, because I actually forgot to mention that. So we've talked about the symptom checker. It's a really easy experience. That's how you submit. We've also talked about how you get access immediately to that patient support resource, and you can also opt in to be contacted by that dedicated support team. And the last piece is what you've mentioned. So as soon as you fill out that symptom checker, you actually also get access to your own patient portal, is what we call it. And so you can log in anytime to that patient portal, and that's where we can share additional updates with you as they become available. So the big thing that would be relevant based on our conversation, of course, is that as soon as we're able to unlock things like that community physician list or additional genetic testing, things like that, you'll always be alerted to that, and you can always log back in at any time to check your patient portal to figure out exactly what resources are available to support you.
That's fantastic. So easy. You guys have made it so easy. I mean, that's
the goal.
Everybody loves that, but I can tell you from, what I know of my fellow O.I.ers, we love it easy too. So we really do appreciate it. All right, Abby, thank you so much for being here. Is there any final thoughts you have for us? What is your final thing you want to tell us, the OI community?
Well, I mean, I have to say that we work with a whole variety of different patient communities, and the whole team has been just so impressed with how engaged you all are. I think it's just really heartening and kind of inspiring to see folks really coming together to share the experience and try to unlock more support, drive more awareness for what you're going through. So yeah, it's a real pleasure to try to create some impact for you, and we're really excited to see where this goes.
I hope you enjoyed the interview, and I hope you're ready to fill out the online symptom checker. Go ahead and find the link in the show description. And of course, if you have any comments or thoughts about Probably Genetic, go ahead and put it in the comments. Until next time, get out there, keep breaking barriers, not bones. Peace.